Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And you heard it out of Gary Gensler's mouth himself that your child will not know what a Federal Reserve note is. The fourth industrial revolution is going to bring in the AI, machine learning, robots, drones to replace humanity. And they laugh about it. You see Gary Gensler, they laugh, they think it's funny because the masses are asleep. And then we have Jim Cramer speaking of Tether. And guys, we know if Tether blows up, this whole crypto market blow up. But we know it's going to be by design. We know we have over 10,000 cryptos. We know we shouldn't have that many cryptos. But the only thing you have to do is go back to the beginning of tech. You had all these tech companies, they blew it up. Now you only have 4 left. And the same thing is going to happen in cryptos, that 1%. And now we see what Gary Gensler is there for. Because we know when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
And prices money at risk. When I was at Goldman Sachs for 18 years, we always said risk was our friend. Well, it is within certain parameters. You get to Swan events, it wasn't. But it dematerialized things of value. I'm not talking about what you can buy at Sotheby's. I'm talking about stocks, bonds, options, equities, money. We basically dematerialize it. When I'm in a classroom, I say, your children, to the students, your children will not recognize a Federal Reserve note. Now, I'm hoping their children aren't in the kind of the drug trade or something. But I think 20 years from now, 30 years from now, I'll say most people will not recognize coins and physical notes. We've dematerialized money, vast amount of data. It's thought that something like 90% of all the data in the world that's stored digitally today was created in the last 12 to 18 months. And this is true every kind of 2 years, roughly speaking. It grows so rapidly. And the expansion of computer power. Those are the big 3, I would say. But also, finance relies on ledgers. Finance right now is welcoming in the millennial generation that in 2030, remember, are going to be 30 years old to 50 years old. They'll be running most of the economy. So what's artificial intelligence and machine learning? I do 4 circles. In essence, it's almost like those little dolls that you can get in Russia. You got the big one, the little one, the next one. So what are the words I would place with this? Artificial intelligence, and again, I apologize to any computer scientists in the room. Machines capable of imitating our intelligence. And I choose the word imitating. It's not necessarily that they're humans, but sort of imitating our intelligence. Machine learning, and this has been around in some of these vocabulary words shift over time, machines able to adjust or learn from the data, that the data basically informs the computer and the computer sort of learns from it. But then representational learning is inferring features and learning from the data, and then deep learning, which of course the theories of much of this has been around for 4 or 5 decades. But deep learning now really where the machines are learning using something called neural networks. And in the simplest sort of form is basically layers of looking for patterns. So if you have a picture and it's a bunch of pixels, you can't go from pixels directly to, is this a stop sign or a speed limit sign for, let's say, autonomous vehicles. You've got to kind of go through layers of pattern recognition, looking for edges, colors. Is it a sign? By the way, how many of you in the last week have gone on to some website and it's asked you, can you push the boxes that say where the signs are of the cars, right? Do you know what we're all doing? We're training the computers to replace us. All right, I'm just kind of kidding around. But it's true. So deep learning can be supervised learning or unsupervised learning. Supervised means there's labels on the features. And what we are all doing when you do that is you're helping give data to the data sets to label features. This is a sign. This is a stop sign, and so forth. It's an aside from the story about finance, but I kind of like that we're training the computers to take our jobs. Sorry about that, because they are the payment rails. Over 1 billion people in China either pay through Alibaba's payment system or WeChat Tencent's payment system. So they have a bunch of cash flow data, and they're creating and starting to do micro lending. And here in the US, who's doing it? Who do you think? Is it JP Morgan? It's Amazon. Amazon Prime, 33 million customers. They've started to loan to small businesses, and also because they're seeing payment data, payment flows. You can enhance.
Now, when I get the statements from the very nice people at Tether, they tell me, look, we've got much more transparency. You realize we've changed a lot. But then I read that New York, the AG settlement.
Right.
And they basically got kicked out of Wall Street, of New York. And to me, Tim, that's highly unusual. And you went to law school with me. If New York decides you can't do business here, shouldn't we be more worried than most people are about this thing?
I think we should be. And, you know, some people might say, oh, well, the AG didn't impose that big a fine. And that's true. But the important thing is the AG required some disclosure. And now when you look at that disclosure, that's when you get concerned. 13% of their assets, this is 13% of 60 billion, is invested in secured loans. We have no idea what kind of loans those are or who they're to. Now, they claim 50% is in commercial paper. That's a lot of commercial paper. But, I've talked to a couple of people who are involved in trading commercial paper. They're not sure they see Tether in the market. So I don't know what commercial paper Tether is buying. But, it's all a concern. So I think we need...
About Tether, which is this, interaction means that is not backed up by what I thought they were. And what I'm really concerned about is, let's say the PRC decided, you know what? We got to crack down on this. There's too many things happening that make it so we've lost control of our own people. Now, remember, they've cracked down for religious freedom. Why wouldn't they crack down and say, we cannot have Bitcoin in this country, unregistered people making a lot of money? Look at what they've cracked down on people who run Alibaba. So I think that there's a very much of a chance that the PRC wakes up and says, you know what? We've had it with Bitcoin. If that's the case, then Tether would be in a lot of trouble.
Making a nice move higher ever since El Salvador announced that they would accept Bitcoin as legal tender. But you did a huge piece on Tether last night. So you usually don't talk about crypto too much on Mad Money. What made you talk about Tether?
My friend Tim Massoud from law school penned a piece for Bloomberg about how he was worried about Tether, worried that it's this company, by the way, that is kind of like you use them as an intermediary to buy, and it's also you can use them to get leverage. But what's most important about them is that they have a balance sheet that is opaque. And Tim doesn't like that. Tim has said, look, they have a page that shows you that they own some commercial paper and this and that, but they don't tell you whose paper. They don't tell you what they have. And so he compared it to Lehman Brothers. Now, I was adamant that Lehman was in big trouble, but I had no idea how much trouble they were really in. So when I see someone analogize to Lehman, I get very scared. So I had Tim on, and in order to be able to have him on to explain the risks, we explained the risk first and then had Tim on, because he just says, look, you got to have, this is one of the biggest balance sheets, one of the top 10 banking institutions, and we know nothing about them, and he just doesn't like that. Look, there's going to have to be some regulation, and I know there's a lot of people out there who don't want any regulation for Bitcoin, but when you start having it be in a 401k, when you start having it so that it's offered as legal tender in El Salvador, you're going to attract a Gensler. You're going to attract, Tim Massoud just was the head of the CFTC. I mean, and this guy's a brilliant guy, and he's worried. So if he's worried, I'm worried.
Sylvia McCally's Algorand, who's a Turing Award winner at MIT that I work with. Sylvia's got a great technology that has the performance. You could create Uber on top of it.
Uber, Bitcoin, self-driving cars. Combine those three together, and you have the self-owning taxi. A car that is a corporation that owns itself pays for the car lease, the car insurance, and the gasoline from the revenues it makes, giving passengers a ride, and there's not a single human involved in that matter.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort, and China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future.